Hello, welcome. My name is Michael, the movie Mamba Ornelas. That is Erica, the feisty Pisces McMullen. And we have Adrian, the Gerber baby-faced assassin Cedeno, joining me today as we are going to be reviewing A Different Man. But first, you seen this? Matthew Lillard returning
It'll be
for
interesting
Scream
to see
7.
how
Erica's
they're gonna
excited.
bring his character into the mix. I'd like to see maybe like he's the voice that they're hearing and is influencing them harder, kind of like a Amityville horror.
Also, you seen this? Carla Sofia Gascon. Sorry if I butchered the name, but maybe I'm not sorry. She's the one of the actresses nominated for Best Actress, and Amelia Perez has come under fire recently. It was uncovered that she had old posts, old tweets that were racist, Islamophobic, homophobic, and all kinds of other various offensive marks. Zoe Saldana, her co-star, has come out and pretty much said she doesn't support that, and it's sad. Oscar voting opens February 11th.
That movie was
it's
nominated
really interesting.
too much.
I need to watch it still. It's the last
I know for
movie.
you, like you love watching those Oscar movies.
I agree.
But I'm just gonna tell you right now, you're just gonna be so disappointed that it was nominated for things.
And you're like, just don't do it. Anyways. Brighter news.
I'm so excited.
Christopher Nolan's new project. I don't know if you guys have heard of this or seen this. Dude, so it's called The Odyssey, and the latest cast member, me and Adrian's boy, John Leguizamo, has now joined the cast of an already star-studded cast, which includes Tom Holland, Zendaya, Matt Damon, John Bernthal, Benny Safdie, Charlize Theron, Lupita Nyong'o, and Robert Pattinson.
Charlize.
What did I say? Charlize?
I have to do that for my Uncle Charlie because he loves her just because his name's
Charlize.
So close to her. And Elliot Page, I heard, was also brought onto that. I think that was recent, though.
Excellent call. Elliot Page has also joined the cast. So this is, this was all last week, I think, especially those two.
Yeah, John Leguizamo, I follow him on socials and stuff. He's been real active with all the ICE raids and immigration and stuff.
Imagine.
But on a light note for him, he was posting about it, talking about he was going to be included in the Odyssey. So that's pretty cool.
I'm curious to see what that looks like, man. No,
I mean, hope every single one of those people are just so stunningly beautiful.
Speaking of directors you got to see, for us sickos, Darren Aronofsky has a new crime thriller coming out. Darren Aronofsky, known for Requiem of a Dream, Mother, Black Swan. It's a crime thriller called Caught Stealing, releasing August 29th. And Adrian, you might like this plot here.
Yeah, movie
follows a former baseball player who gets caught in the criminal underworld of 90s New York. This includes a cast of Austin Butler, Zoe Kravitz, my girl, Regina King, Matt Smith of House of the Dragon fame.
I just have a hard time with Austin Butler.
Doctor Who. Really?
And I won't see his movies.
You just see Austin Butler, or he's...
He doesn't do anything for the screen.
Wow. Okay. No particular reason. Just Dune. What about Dune 2?
As much as I love sci-fi,
pretty on fire now, huh?
Is like, it's rough. It's so long. It's just long, right?
Wow.
Like we were talking about, like those 85-minute movies. I'm like, yes,
there's a lot going on between two movies there.
But then Dune comes around. I'm like, shit, like I really got to pay attention to everything that's going on right now. So
speaking of people we don't vibe with, also in the movie is Bad Bunny. He's popping up in a bunch of movies. I don't know how I feel about it. I'm not a big fan of his, but
I think
whatever.
He should maybe
it's not for me.
Wait to enter the movie game, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, this is like his fourth movie, I think, third movie, something like that. So, listen, good luck to him. I'm just bitter. I had an ex that was obsessed with him and always listened to him. So it's like, no, thank you. I've had enough of the bunny. Without further ado, let's review A Different Man.
Have you seen this?
Have you seen this?
Have you seen this?
I know, I've seen this. I know this.
So to kick us off, maybe Erica, can you open up? Let us know. Did you watch this at home? What did you think about? What was your viewing experience?
Just because kind of like the reviews I had heard about it, which it was more of like, this might have been like like a humble friend kind of movie versus like some of my family members. I liked it. It was definitely a new story. Obviously Sebastian Stan won the Golden Globe for it. Loved his speech about um further making movies and not letting disabilities get in the way of that and making sure stories are heard. Loved all of that. There were some characters in the film where I was like, I'd fucking fight you. Like, I'm not happy with some of the decisions that some of the characters made. So it
Yeah,
really like
sure.
felt that you were a part of the movie and you were a part of the story going along. Like I had a lot of feelings towards like whether or not you wanted to stick up for somebody, whether or not you wanted to tell somebody off, whether or not you wanted to correct somebody. It's like, hey, wait a second. Like it kind of got you into that mind of thinking, which is definitely something that we all need nowadays. But I really enjoyed it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, it's best lead actor for the Golden Globe to Sebastian Stan. Ironically enough, he wasn't nominated for the Oscars for this role, but he was for The Apprentice. But yeah, Adrian, your thoughts. What did you think of this movie? I feel like it's not typically your wheelhouse, but the whole time I was watching, I was really thinking about you and like, I wonder what Adrian thinks about this scene or this, you know? So I'm curious, what did you think?
It was interesting. It was the storyline was unique, and I was intrigued mainly because that uncomfortableness that you feel when like you see somebody maybe disfigured, disabled, what have you, like it's a touchy subject right now. Like it makes everybody feel uncomfortable on some level, but it was something that like I would have to deal with my daughter. You know, she's 7 years old, and that's something like, hey, don't stare. But it's understandable. Like, how can they not? So it touched on some, you know, emotions for sure. It was an interesting storyline. I liked it, but it wasn't something I would rate it 3 stars out of 5. It was good. Great acting. I was curious to see if the second actor that was disfigured was
Adam Pearson
actually disfigured or not. So I don't know. I still don't know. I don't know Adam Pearson.
At the end,
I'm
like
not
he pulls off a
familiar,
mask.
so
Like, that would like just drive Edward like over
right.
just a little bit more over than what already happened.
Or like when they're wrestling, he actually pulls something off. So yeah, I liked it, but it wasn't something I would go back to. You know, it didn't really have rewatchability, but it did have some interesting concepts. And like Erica said, like, man, I just wanted to punch some people in the face.
Yeah. I mean, A Different Man definitely, definitely has a lot of introspective analysis on even the production of the movie. Like, it's really in conversation with itself, how to approach making this movie with this kind of actor that has this kind of disability, disfigurement. But before I proceed any further, I actually brought a couple friends to talk about my thoughts on this movie. These friends are very tiny but mighty. Unfortunately, they fall into a trap, and I think the experience here is very similar to my experience. And these are a couple mosquitoes from A Bug's Life.
No! Harry, no! Don't look at the light! I can't help it. It's so beautiful.
So Edward just couldn't help himself, you know. He has all these doctors kind of telling him what to do, and we're still in spoiler-free territory, so I'll just go high level. But ultimately, you know, he's almost pressured into
What everybody wants
caving
for
into
him.
what everyone. Correct. It's very much everyone's
Well, and telling
outside
him how
perspective
he
telling
lives his
him
life,
what to do,
like
right, and how to
as
live.
this
or-
person with this disfigurement on his face, they're saying this
Yeah.
is how you need to live. Like this is the right way to live.
And I feel like a lot of what I want to dive into, we'll have to do in spoilers, so we'll do that shortly. But at a high level, I really enjoyed the film. I think the score is really subtle but good. I got a lot of like Catch Me If You Can vibes, but like a calm, subtle version of that. And I think that really plays into like the reflective review that the movie is asking itself to do and its audience to do. Like really kind of puts you in a position that we've all been in. I think we've seen people with disfigurement or burn scars or whatever the case may be. And we have that moment of kind of like Adrian said, unease. But I think what this movie does, and what Erica, you're kind of alluding to in Sebastian Stan's speech, is to normalize like people, like they're just people that really can't have any, can't affect the way they look, And so I really appreciated that about this movie. There's some more detailed things I want to get into. So
You
maybe
have
we'll
to
dive
dive right into
spoilers.
Spoiler alert.
Spoilers for A Different Man. So ultimately, Edward is the character that Sebastian Stan plays in the first half of the movie. Incredible makeup. That's the one award it did get nominated for at the Oscars this year. Well deserving. I didn't even realize that it was Sebastian Stan there, and then Adam Pearson later. Like I watched this a second time last night, and that so much more clicked for me. But just the way Sebastian Stan walked
even
and would
after
talk and
he
would do all this
lost
was
his
so
face too,
transformative.
It was still walking like that. He was still unsure of where he fit into the world, and he still carried that walk.
That confidence, though, like I think that's what gets me the most is confidence. Like, how can somebody with like disfigured like that have any type of confidence? And even once it washes away, like it's not just gonna boom bring you some confidence. But
Right.
they touched on that because a few months later, all of a sudden he's like this big, real estate agent making a ton of money and living the good life just because his looks.
Right.
And I'm sure that plays with his psychosis of the whole nature of him.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because I think we all think, if I was in better shape, if I had bigger muscles, if I lost weight, then I'd feel better. Or if I bought this product, then I'll feel better, right? And I think exactly to your point, Adrian, we see him go through this whole transformation, medical procedure. His tumors essentially fall off, which was pretty gnarly.
So painful.
Shout out to the makeup department there.
But the pain, I don't know, the pain I was like getting from that was more emotional pain than like physical pain. Like
when he was crying in bed.
Yeah, and like he's pulling his face completely like off, and it looked like rubber, and he's just pulling it off, and he's screaming, but it's more like emotionally, he's like, "Oh my god, my face is falling off." Like it's not so much like pain, like physical
really
pain, but like the terror.
Anything to go on.
Well, they didn't know.
Yeah.
They said it's like a new procedure, an experimental procedure. So they were surprised themselves at the rate or the pace that it was taking effect. But yeah, that's a great point, Adrian, as far as like the confidence, because that's very clear. Like he's the same person throughout the movie, pre and post procedure, right? And he's essentially goes out. He's an actor. The movie opens up with him in this commercial or like an HR
that's
video.
Exactly how that's
oh man,
exactly
how
let's be real.
Exactly how I
Let's
would
be real.
expect to see a video.
That's how they
about
are. It's one of those videos where it's like, don't be discriminatory, don't be sexist, and it gives you the most like discriminatory or sexist remarks within the video, and it's like, anyways. But yeah, that sets the stage of him kind of being like a struggling actor. You can tell he's kind of been through auditions. And then once he gets the procedure, we don't really see anything acting wise. He's now in real estate and successful. Then he does try out for this play, which is written by his neighbor who knew him when he was
and it's about him,
and it's about him.
Well, so okay, so you skip over his face comes back, and all of a sudden he's handsome, right? And people are asking him like, "Where's the guy that used to live here?" And he just says, "Oh, he died. It was sudden." And then the people who given him the medicine or the drug, they come check on him like, "Hey man, have you seen Edward? He hasn't been here. He hasn't checked in like a week." And he's like, "Oh yeah, he died suddenly. Sorry, it was a heart attack.
Already cremated.
Yeah,
already cremated."
So then he's kind of on his own. Like he has nobody to talk to about it. He has nobody to go and confide in with the doctors to know if Am I gonna be okay? Is this permanent? Am I good? And it just kind of highlights over that, and then moves on to now a few years later, his neighbor thinks he died and writes this play about him. And now he sees it, but he's not him. He's a new person.
And I appreciate the table setting they do early on when they have the whole scene of her coming to fix his cut. First of all, I've never had a neighbor look that attractive, let alone a neighbor period, come over and start like delivering first aid for me, let alone giving me some sugar or something. But I think that really set the stage of like our own assumptions, right? Like, I think we're supposed to be in her position and like, she's so comfortable. She's so like, he's a regular person, as it should be. Yeah. But it's kind of sticks out in that moment. And then the whole interpretation of what happened that night is what the movie's about.
And to touch on what you're talking about.
Yeah, she's
Michael,
not a good person. She's not a good person.
I think she felt bad. I think throughout this entire film, she just felt like a piece of shit. Rightfully so. Because when she's first moving in and he's like trying to sneak back into his apartment, she like jumps and is afraid of him and then realizes, oh shit, scares. I need to like treat him like a normal neighbor and do all of this stuff and go the extra mile, make him feel included, do all of these things, right? Which is stuff that we're hearing in that really shitty HR film is like, oh, treat them like a regular person. Treat them like this. Newsflash, they are regular people. Like, that's the whole issue with the problem. And then the fact this part sent me, like, I was in a rage as first. But when when he asked her where she got the typewriter from, you erased his existence regardless of how you felt trying to treat him like a normal person in the beginning of the film. Like, you completely erased it, regardless if you're
and they just giving it away, right?
About him,
you can just throw it out.
Erased his existence
I don't even know if it works.
Your life. Like, that's what bothered me of her writing the play in the first place was like, bitch, fuck you. Like, you erased him.
He's taking credit like if it was like she manifested this character out of her mind, like created him, and it wasn't that. Like,
about it.
she knew somebody like that, and so she's writing this about him.
Like, wouldn't you go freaking crazy if this one lady was just like pretending that you were not real and you are the evidence?
He couldn't. I mean, you're in a conundrum because what's he gonna do? Oh, I'm the real Eddie. I just had this, procedure and.
I mean, if he would have opened with that, it would have changed the
whole story.
Cool, congratulations. Like, who knows?
Seconds after, like, that's how it would be. Like, oh, he confesses that he was Edward, and this is the mask, and blah blah blah. End credit.
But I think that's also like what this movie is touching on is that he felt, and the way we're told when we want to start anew or shed your skin or whatever. Like, literally, these are phrases we say about new year, new me. Right? You got to kill the past, and I think. Him doing that is what he thinks he's supposed to do in order to be this new person. And okay, he's dead. I'm this new person, but end of the day, you're the same person. You know what I mean? What I really liked, Erica, that you were touching on is how she is taking credit, or Adrian, I think you said this, but Erica, you touched on it, taking credit for the story, and then how everyone treats him is exactly what this movie is doing. But I think typically a typical story would create a very clear villain that is giving this type of energy or this message. And we're supposed to see how this person that's, let's say, making fun of him or whatever, they're the bad way to treat these people. Whereas a lot of this movie is like, almost like a savior complex, right? Like, I'm going to come in. I have empathy for people. I'm a good person.
But it was fake the whole time.
It's fake for her specifically because she had ulterior motives. She saw it as like a muse for her own creative endeavors, right?
I think she's just so fascinated by having this this interesting person because like she's struggling to write things. She's not really getting her foot underneath. She even tells Edward, I don't really have a lot of ideas going on. And she essentially like stole his story because she reads his little excerpt when he's alive and is like, oh, like, yeah. And then when he dies, she now has the story and knows how he feels. But then when Oswald comes in, she's like, well, I need somebody's like actual perspective. And Edward's like, well, how would you know? How would any of you know? Regardless if your face looks like that, Oswald, you have a completely different personality than I did. So it's like, I'm telling you, it made me rage a lot.
Well, what I think the movie is very smart, and what I mean by that is, again, it depends on the audience's reaction to these situations. So, for example, movies set us up to have empathy for Edward. We already come in with a certain level of empathy for people with disfigurement, right? But then when Adam Pearson's character Oswald is introduced, the first time around I watched it, I was like, oh, what a charming guy, you know.
Charismatic.
We're supposed to like this guy, you know, and I fell for the trap. And the second time, I'm like, if this motherfucker wasn't disfigured, what a fucking asshole.
Yeah, he just,
you know what I mean?
Barged in on their meeting, like on their lunch or dinner or whatever, having drinks, and just like, man. But I feel like that's British, you know?
Well, hey, take it easy. We got some UK listeners, man. Let's take it
I'm
easy.
just saying, like, New Yorkers are mean, or like Philadelphia fans, like they're violent.
Straightforward.
You know what I mean? Like, there's a certain, you know, I feel like, yeah, they're straightforward, they're blunt, you know?
I love that the UK population wasn't enough. You're like, New York.
I gotta get them all. I gotta get them all.
You get a true New Yorker, like somebody who's lived there their whole life, some of the kindest people I've ever met. They just don't have a lot of patience for people who come in and don't know what the fuck is going on in New York. Like, if this was
what I was getting at is
a normal, no disfigurement, nothing going on, he came in, interrupted the play, was making suggestions, took his part, took his girl, did literally just like came in and said, this is my thing. And to say he was born for that,
took his
like
life.
I said, they were two completely different people when they had this disfigurement. Like we said, he came in, he was this charismatic person. We were meant to like him right away. And you do. He's a very likable person. He does karaoke. He goes out for drinks. He's got funny stories with other people. Like, he really is a charismatic person. It's the exact opposite of Edward. And when she says,
which is the character
I think she
that
talks
they
about
have.
like,
he just had a
is it
disfigurement.
wrong for us to have somebody play with a mask, or should we just have somebody who has the disfigurement to play it? Kind of in turn tells us that she literally had no idea who Edward was. Really. Because he wasn't that person. He was so quiet, soft-spoken. He was willing to do things for his neighbors. He was willing to be quiet and have us alive. Like, rage.
Yeah. And, you know, with Oswald, he's the definition of kill him with kindness. You know, so it's hard to at first be mad at him because he's like, oh, you know, you're such a great actor. You know, he's coming out in this play and just hyping up Edward, and just to ultimately
eventually not have Edward in the play at all.
Use it for the next production.
I got some questions. So
yeah,
why did he stab the physical therapist instead of like Oswald? Like, I thought that's what was gonna go down. I thought Oswald was gonna turn the corner and bam, this fool's gonna get it in the face. And instead, it's the trainer like, hey, can I have a seltzer? And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, like. And then he goes to prison, and we're just supposed to think like years go by in prison. He just gets out and everything's good. Like, he's gonna go visit them, and oh yeah, we're going to a cult. We're gonna do LSD and nudist colony. And I don't know. It was just weird. Why did he not stab Oswald?
He knew that if he stabbed and like murdered Oswald at this point, right? So he's already demolished the play. He's already like gone a little crazy or whatever. So he was already in like this really fragile state of mind, and then having to sit around being taken care of the people who essentially kind of led you into this point and watched them have a happy life, and then he's just stuck trying to learn how to walk again. I don't know. I would have stabbed at the therapist too. I mean, and the therapist is there like talking shit about Oswald too. Like, oh, how could that happen? Like, what?
Yeah.
How in the hell? Yeah, how in the hell? Like, there's no my thumbs up.
So
like, there's no way she's attracted to him, and so like that again. I mean, he was Edward. Like I'm sure at some point somebody might have said something about him, and sense. And so I think he was just slowly like, I cannot live in this space anymore.
Purpose was like the accumulation of everything he's had to deal with, and
And
with
not
him
knowing that
being this stranger
Edward
just
literally
talking shit,
used to look like that. Like
he
used
snapped.
to have.
And I think this movie does a balance line walk of like realism and surrealism. To your point, Adrian, of like, oh, it doesn't make sense. I would have just stabbed Oswald, and then he gets out of jail and like he meets back up with them. I think that's the surreal aspect of it, as far as like, all right, we're gonna double down. This guy, Oswald, has essentially taken the whole life you would think you'd dream of having. You're married, open-minded wife, a nudist colony, retiring relatively young, doing all these things. And I think that's just the surreal aspect of saying,
Yeah,
like,
and
here's
I
the
like at the
conclusion. This
very
is what's
end
happened
where
with these two
Oswald
people
was
that
like,
were.
oh, like, you've never changed. I actually really appreciated that because I think he finally kind of understood where he gives that laugh and gentle smile. But it's
That's why he
also
laughs
like
with him when he says that. Yeah.
it was kind of like a good closing point to where like Edward, like that life was never meant for you. Like this person, like because she wasn't a good person. She really
Right.
wasn't.
No. I mean, my mosquito quote was
You're
about
so
that
into it,
too.
like,
Is
oh
like
my God, yes,
when they're
like
first talking
inclusivity,
and
she's
like
doing it, like
getting
she's,
romantic.
and then
There's a point when he looks like Sebastian Stan, right? When he looks
You could just say handsome, Mikey. It's okay.
you could just say when he
I was
doesn't
gonna say
have
fixed, but then
the
like this is exactly
honest.
what the movie does, when he's no longer disfigured, and they start like making out, and she says, I wrote down the quote, essentially that she leaves guys in a trail of tears.
No, wait. A
wake of tears, right? Something like this.
Yeah.
And then after that, and then they're kissing, and she's like, I warned you. And that's where I was like, dude, don't do it. Like, I know, Adrian, you've been in love all your life, so I won't speak to you. I'll speak to my experience. But there's people
and
where
that's
you see
that quote.
red
It's
flags,
like somebody
and
will
you look
tell
past
you
them,
up front how they are. You just have to believe them. And he didn't want to believe it. He didn't want to believe that.
Yeah.
He, like I said, he no longer had this disfigurement on his face. So he felt like, yeah, everything's going to go exactly the way that I need it to go now. And then to see somebody with the disfigurement on their face do exactly what he had wanted to do. I think he was like also regretting that he was pressured into having to take it off or having it fall off.
So I think that was the whole point of the movie was he really a different man? Like, no, he was the same person the whole time.
He just didn't
He
know
still had
that
no
about
confidence.
himself.
He still would let people kind of walk all over him. He didn't know how he was supposed to feel, what to feel. Like he was just kind of lost in himself and always contemplating kind of in the background. And even when he was, top real estate agent, like it still seemed like he was still out of place. He's still like, this isn't me. So I think the entire time he's trying to be a different man. And then at the end, it all comes out like, yeah, you're right. I'm the same dude I've been,
when he starts
whether I was
wearing his
disfigured or not.
mask
The
and he
whole
puts
time.
on like the shirt like Oswald wears with the jacket and trying to act like I was crying, I was laughing. So I mean,
he's trying to act like him.
It's obviously like really upsetting because he's going through like this breakdown, but the way that he did it, I was dying laughing. I was like, because you're just like, this is not going to end well.
This is like the messaging and the content is like relatively serious, but there's a lot of humor in this movie as well, for sure. Let me know your guys' thoughts on this. The hole in the ceiling that just perpetually gets worse and worse. What's that represent, or what was that?
I think it was more that he was okay with things just being. He's not going to fix it. He's not going to try to get any better. It was just, this is my life and this is how I'm okay with it. And she was even telling him, like, you should get that fixed. You should get that looked at. Oh, yeah. Like, he just feels like he was beneath things, or he's just outside kind of observing things and not really a part of it. Like, that's not going to impact him. Let me just put a bucket right there. He was just that kind of a person. He wasn't outgoing. I think he was just setting the tone of, okay, this whole time, this is the type of person he is, right? It's not because of his disfigurement. It's just, this is him, right? And even in the beginning of the movie, like when she first sees him, like a picture of him and his mom as a baby, and she's like, "Oh, is this you? Like so you weren't always like that. You weren't born this way."
So what's great is she doesn't say that in the actual scene, right? She switches gears. Like you could see it, this is why the script is so good.
Right.
It knows the audience is going to assume what she's thinking and going to say, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the actual scene, she shifts gears. Is your mom still alive? In the play, she does
and that's
ask
what I
like,
think
"Oh, so you weren't born this way," you know? So it does a great job of like
too, because
knowing
he's
what we'll
like,
anticipate.
what the fuck? Like, that didn't happen. Like, because he knows how that story is going. He won't admit that she had this
100%.
relationship and this friendship or whatever, you know, with Edward, and then to see it all play out in front of himself with Oswald, I'm sure just like you said.
Yeah.
I think with the ceiling though, kind of like same lines of Adrian, but like it was kind of like similar to him just letting these things fester, like letting these feelings go until he can't take anymore, kind of thing. So like he let the ceiling go until stuff fell out of it. He let the doctors continue to talk his head off until he finally did it, right? He did the real estate. He finally let his coworkers talk into him into being on the billboard and doing these like cutouts and stuff. He followed her to do it, convinced himself, talk to himself to go in audition. So I think it was like kind of setting the tone for how things were going to happen, how it was just going to keep festering. It was going to keep doing it until boom, there's a hole in the ceiling. There's damage that really can't be repaired.
So do you think because of that scene where, hey, you weren't born like this kind of a thing, do you think that was a part of it, that he got so disfigured because he just let it go? How does somebody go from this to so disfigured?
About like,
and we don't have that
your
timeline.
eye will eventually close. This will eventually, like, your hearing over here is probably going to go first because like it's going to close up. So it's not something that really stops, right? Keeps going, keeps festering until the damage is irreparable. So I think that was kind of like the similar.
I think the fact that he has that conversation with the doctor, I think implies that this is a medical journey he's been on the majority of his life, right? And there isn't a cure until we get to this experimental treatment, right? So I don't think that necessarily speaks to like his lack of care or treatment along the way. I think it's just we meet him at a point where there's an alternative solution.
I kind of almost disagree because of how he gets hurt and he's just like, oh, yeah, and she's like trying to take care of him. It just feels like he does things and then doesn't care about him. Like, oh, it's cool, I'll be all right.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't like treat it. Like he just grabs a rag and he's just like walking up, like, I'm gonna answer the door. Like, no, you just sliced yourself. You probably need stitches. Like, who cares about who's at the door? So I think that was a part of it. Like he would just be that guy where whatever happens to me is just gonna happen to me. I have no will or no directive over that. It's just things are happening to me. I'm just unlucky.
I know you said this isn't a movie you would revisit, but I think this is one of those ones where upon rewatches, you'll take something new from it. You know, it's got like layers in its script. One thing that I'll just say high level, and I was talking about a little bit with the surrealist aspect, this feels oftentimes more like a poem than like a typical script.
Even when they're just
it's
like
always moving
following
and they're long
Edward in the
shots.
hallway of the apartment complex, like the casualty of the camera to where it doesn't really look like it's on a rig or anything. It really just looks like somebody's following him around to really grasp how he feels and how his person is surrounded by the rest of the people.
Yeah, there's not like fast cuts or quick edits. You know, a lot of the shots are longer shots that, like you said, are kind of the floating around. I know we talked about flow and how the camera kind of flows there. That was a bit different. I think there's a lot more energy and flow, maybe camera movement. But I think the way the camera moves in this movie really gets us ingrained into this life and being an observer, you know, as an audience member discovering the story. One thing I wanted to say, I had a Leo moment pointing at the TV screen. When Edward or Guy is at the bar and there's that guy kind of just talking to him, rambling on. Did
I
you guys
know his
recognize him?
face, but
Yeah.
I'm
yeah.
bad with
Like,
names.
you recognize him?
Nah.
It's the kid from Hook. Yeah, that's totally. He's actually been in a few
Run
things.
Home Jack.
Run Home Jack.
Oh,
That is
cool.
him. His name is
I
Charlie
think I would so
Corsimo.
think
But I saw him at the
looks
bar. I
in that.
remember the first time seeing him. He's also in Can't
That's
Hardly
so-
Wait, if you guys remember that movie too.
Oh, that is him.
That's him. That's
Yeah.
totally him.
Yeah.
So I always love seeing like a kid actor getting some work done when you don't see him on the main screen.
And it
too
says
often.
he's a lawyer and a political activist now.
I guess just one last thing I'll say, with the themes of the movie, how we're talking about assumptions of people with disabilities being sympathetic and like thinking that you're doing the right thing. I think that can translate to a lot of things, to race. People make assumptions about how a race should feel or how you should navigate the world, but everyone has their own individual experiences. And I think a lot of times, specifically, and I'm not saying I feel one way or the other, but with like the woke movement, a lot of that assumption was placed into it. Nobody asked me if I wanted a Latin X as my background. You know what I mean? So like these kind of examples, there's a lot of decisions being made and assumptions. And I think this movie speaks to exactly that even if you have good intent, even if you think you're doing the right thing, it comes down to the people you're actually impacting and how it makes them feel, right? So I think the movie is really powerful. But if we want to, we can discuss our double feature recommendations. Adrian, why don't you start us off? What would you pair with A Different Man?
I had a tough time thinking about this, but I would go Face Off. It was an older movie with John Travolta, similar kind of concept where it's like an experimental type surgery, plastic surgery. So I would, and the kind of emotions that are going on there with having somebody else's face on you and the life you have to, assume. And I guess that Nicolas Cage is in that also. So that's another bad one from Nicolas Cage. And as far as the acting goes, but it was a good movie all around. So I do think that would be a good pairing for it.
You're like, what happens in A Different Man? Face Off. Hey, that'll
Face
do.
Off.
That'll do. All right, excellent.
I was having
Erica,
a hard time because there's two movies that I think would be very good for a triple feature. But I'm actually gonna lean towards the movie. I don't know if either of you seen it, but Fresh, another Sebastian Stan movie, but he plays a very different character than Edward. But it's kind of interesting to kind of see in the role where he's in for Fresh. I tried not to give enough spoilers, but a very attractive man, very charismatic with a very, very, very dark secret. So it kind of plays into that charismatic, good looking people can really get away with a lot of things happening. So I would recommend Fresh with that. I always forget her name.
Daisy Edgar Jones. When you said Fresh, I got excited, but didn't see the correlation because I thought you were taling about 1994 Fresh. Sean Nelson, John Carlos Esposito.
It's a Hulu.
Guys, check that out.
I think it's on
Very
Hulu.
good movie, but Fresh.
Hulu original. Great. I really liked it. Really good plot twists in a lot of the areas and stuff. It was good. We can't spoil that one.
I'll just say I saw it. I didn't have the same
Why didn't you like it?
But that's fine. Go watch Fresh.
We'll talk about it after.
Well, I mean, I don't want to give anything away from it. It just
Okay.
Yeah. It was an interesting idea.
It was meant to, though.
It felt a little too
meant
poppy
to go
for
down.
me. Nonetheless,
Go watch it.
I'll never discourage people from watching movies, so go watch Fresh on Hulu. For me, I'm going with a very recent movie, The Substance, also in the award circuit, came out 2024, Demi Moore movie. When I first watched A Different Man, it was probably like the following week after I'd seen The Substance. And man, they are like hand in hand in conversation about body image, wanting to change that, the effects of it. Yet they're very different movies. Have you guys seen The Substance? Yeah, Adrian, you did. Yeah, you guys saw, right? So it's very in conversation with each other, just take a different approach. Just like I said, A Different Man is a bit more subtle and we're kind of just going on this journey. the substance is in your face and, you know, very loud and vibrant. But I think what they're talking about is correlated. The substance, if you haven't seen it, check it out in theaters before the Oscars so you know what the hype is
Yeah,
about.
right.
If you don't have that opportunity, I'm sure it'll be coming to streaming anytime soon here. Now, before we forget, very important, we have to draft stock. I know, Adrian, you talk about loser's ball and things like this, but Erica really likes pulling the names, and then we have the wheel. So maybe for these, we do the names out of a hat, and then for our draft, we do our wheel of shame or whatever we want to call it. What do we think? Or you want to do losers?
Yeah, I like the wheel.
Let's just do the wheel.
Oh, the wheel. So just stick with the wheel.
Stick with the wheel.
I like the wheel. I don't
Okay,
like how
well, now
your
I gotta pull up the
algorithm
wheel.
picked you. If you get picked first, we're picking out
Listen,
of a hat.
well, let's see. I got it up here. Tries.
Our
Let's see.
pictures
All
are
right.
just so
we
cute.
can see the wheel. Yeah, there it is. See, I picked good ones this time. And I noticed from the last time when I was editing, for whatever reason, I think there's a slight delay on the wheel to our audio.
Look at
So
it
I
in a
was like
second.
celebrating getting first pick before it stopped spinning. So that probably leads to your claim of me cheating. But anyways, okay. First pick for the draft stock. We have. Wow,
You already
wow.
know.
Ain't that some shit? Erica
I'm coming
gets
out
first
with a
pick.
good old.
Yeah, that's a shame. All right, me and Adrian for second pick. Hey, that's second for me, baby. All right.
Yeah.
All right, so there we have it. Erica, you're drafting
go
stock
with
first
the
from this
Winter
movie.
Soldier,
Go
my
ahead,
Sebastian
take 'em.
Stan.
Yeah, that's good. It's funny. I knew, like, when I was thinking about this draft
and
stock,
this
I
is
was
just
like,
a dream
Erica
come true
can't
for
get
me.
first
It's like
because
the best
she's
day
going to
ever.
take Sebastian Stan for sure. But yeah. That's a great. That might be the best stock pick that we've had.
Him and your director. I think
he's
you picked Robert.
he's hot right now. I
think those
he's getting
two are
hotter.
gonna do very well this year.
All right. So if I'm drafting second for a different man, you know, there again, just like Sing Sing, there's not a lot of big. So Anthony got Coleman Domingo.
Yeah, I'm taking Coleman Domingo.
You guys are sharing Coleman. I think you took Mike. What was his name again? Do you remember?
I don't remember his name.
Yeah,
Michael.
that's your stock. And then I took the director.
Yeah. Which is like really exciting.
I had to. I mean,
like for
again,
Hollywood,
it's limited.
just to
So
kinda,
like with a
see
different
bunch of
man,
these
where
actors kind of get a shot at the big screen on like movies that are Oscar nominated, and
yeah, I hope you get a chance to check that out.
Mike
I think
is
you'd
Sean
really like
San
it.
Jose.
That's right, Sean San Jose. That's who you took. I hope you get a chance to check it out,
Okay.
Eric. I think you would like Sing Sing. So report back once you get a chance to.
It was a good movie.
Check it out
For sure.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Okay, so my draft pick is tough, right? Like that guilt of I should take Adam Pearson, but now I'm that asshole that the movie's talking about. Because it's tough. Like if we again the reality, it's kind of like Oswald says in the movie. Like you just got to be real with the situation, and I don't think he's unfortunately going to get too many roles moving forward. I'm going to take I hope I say her name right, Renate Reinsve, who played Ingrid, the woman none of us really liked,
that's
at least
good
the
stock
character.
to draft if she's playing a character
But she's
where
been
you
in
just
a
like
few
fucking hate her up.
things.
Like she did her job, you know what I mean?
Like she was good. Like yeah. Like there was parts where it felt a little I don't know if over actor. Like this
I think
movie
she
felt like a play.
how she was finished.
That's such an important thing as an actor is to understand the tone of a movie and to drive in that lane. And I think she did. She was also in The Worst Person in the World. I hadn't seen that, but I know a lot of people did.
She's been in like 20 movies that nobody's ever heard of. So
yeah,
well, how about your draft stock now, Mikey?
I'll pay the
that
price.
Means I got her at a good price. Only way is up. Adrian, that leaves you with.
We'll go the director, Aaron Schimberg.
There you go.
He hasn't had many movies. It looks like this is kind of his thing with this. Chained for Life was one where it's like a disfigured guy. But I would assume because he's disfigured, that's why he's kind of like taking on these type of movies. It looks like he has like a cleft lip kind of thing.
Oh, okay, sure.
So he has some scarring on his face. But I would take him. I think short of the writers, like it was very interesting, creative, and in the time that we're coming to, I think his creativity is going to blossom where a lot more people are going to want to see
That
things like A
inclusivity is
Different
so
Man, where
important.
it's just different types of people going through their life and their perspectives. Yeah.
Yeah. No, good. I listen. A lot of the same themes have come
Mhm.
out of the movies this year, and for me, and that's. I hope they make more movies like this. You know what I mean? Like a bit different. When you guys get a chance to watch Nickel Boys, that's another Best Picture nominee. That's like a bit different. So
Yeah,
yeah,
here's
as
a message for
I'll always
Hollywood. We're
encourage movies
tired of
that
these
go
freaking
out of the
remakes.
typical mold, and
Like, these are good.
I'm
Like,
looking
it's
forward to
because
Happy Gilmore
essentially those
2
stories
still.
are going to be
Give me a
so
break.
similar to the first story that we've already heard. And we're getting, like you said, we're getting this inclusivity.
Sure.
The director, like, he's bringing out a different story, something that we haven't heard. And we all enjoyed it for the most part. You know what I mean? Like,
And lastly, we have our Commodus scale. If we're doing thumbs up, thumbs down, or even thumbs. Adrian, kick us off. What did you think? Thumbs up. All right. Erica, thumbs up. Thumbs up also. 3 thumbs up. Awesome. Go see A Different Man. It is now streaming on Max. Again, if you've listened to this podcast, hopefully, the spoilers didn't ruin it for you. And if anything, it encouraged you to check out the movie because I think it's very much worth checking out. As we sign off, check us out on our socials. SeenThis.pod on Instagram. Seen This Pod on Blue Sky, on Letterboxd, and on YouTube. Seen This Pod. I'll just say, quick update, guys. Our latest episode, full episode, the Prison Draft movie, has been our highest viewed full-length video. So we have shorts on YouTube, right? Up to a minute. But our Prison Draft has over 200 views, which, for the big YouTube enterprise isn't a lot. But for us, that's incredible. So thank you guys. Thank you guys for listening, for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment. We love talking with you in the comments. You could also go to our website to find everything at seenthispod.com. With that being said, we will see you next week. Stay safe.